Welcome to the Unconventional Wisdom Podcast with Ed Rempel, the show about the most effective methods to achieve financial security and freedom. Find out what really works. Insights are based on in-depth experience from a fee-for-service financial planner, tax accountant, Canada's #1 financial planner blogger, and your host, Ed Rempel. Why renting could be your secret to smarter wealth building. Owning a home is unaffordable for many people today. But here's some good news. If you rent, you can grow your wealth as faster using the same two ideas that benefit homeowners. Tenants have several major advantages over homeowners for wealth building. And many homeowners think their home is their best investment, but that's unfortunate. It's easier to find better investments with dramatically higher long-term returns. So despite the lower returns, homeowners on average are wealthier for two non-investment reasons, but tenants can use the same two ideas to grow as much or more wealth. So in this post, you'll learn how do homes compare to other growth investments for rate of return? Why is it unfortunate for people if their home is their largest investment? Why do they call home equity debt equity? What are the two non-investment reasons homeowners tend to be wealthier? Why do homes start being a good investment and then stop? What are the advantages tenants have over tenants for wealth building? How can you make renting your secret to smart wealth building? And what are 3 effective strategies to grow wealth faster without owning a home? So many people today feel they're missing out because they cannot afford to buy a home, or they choose not to buy a home for personal or work reasons. They may think that owning a home is the cornerstone to building wealth and eventually being financially independent, and they're missing out. However, the good news is that renting could be your secret to smarter wealth building. Now, before we get into how to make renting your home a smart wealth building strategy, it's important to understand how homeowners grow wealth. So first point is, how do homes compare to other growth investments for rate of return? So for many people, their home may be their only major investment. For them, that old conventional wisdom might be true, but that's unfortunate that your home is your best investment or your biggest investment. The average home in Toronto has grown in value by 6.3% per year the last 50 years. This is more than most cities in Canada. The central growth investment for long-term investing and retirement investing is the stock market, where returns have been dramatically higher. In fact, Toronto homes have grown in value only slightly more than GICs the last 50 years. The average home in Toronto on January 1st, 1975 was worth $52,806. Investing that amount until the end of 2024 in different investments, here's how much you get. So now, if you owned a home, the value today is about $1,118,000. If it was a GIC, it'd have about $832,000. So that's 0.7 times as much. If you put it in Canadian stocks like the TSX 60, you'd have $7,242,000. That's 6.8 times as much. If you're U.S. stocks, the S&P 500, you'd have $17,832,000. So it's almost 17 times as much. Or global stocks, like the MSCI World Index, you have 13,727,000, so almost 13 times as much. So it's dramatically more. I have a chart that actually shows that. Now, we value our homes for many emotional and non-investment reasons. However, as a pure growth investment, our homes are not high growth. Remember this stat: the Toronto stock market has had nearly 7 times the growth of Toronto real estate the last 50 years. Global and U.S. markets returns are much higher. So why is it unfortunate for people if their home is their largest investment? If your home is your largest investment, you probably can't retire comfortably. So retirement planning has good and bad news. The bad news is you probably need much more than you think to retire comfortably. The good news is that it can be much easier to get there than you think. Now, we've written financial plans for thousands of Canadians. Everyone's unique, but the total investments most need to retire with the lifestyle they want is between $2 million to $5 million. Some with very frugal investments are less. Some with very comfortable retirements are far more. but that's the average or the most common. Now, you can use the 4% rule as a rough estimate to see this. A portfolio of $2 million sounds like a lot, but it supports a retirement of $80,000 a year before tax. Think of a couple with each earning $40,000 a year. So it's decent, but it's not comfortable. So I know it's odd thinking that $2 million is not a lot. So now if you're planning to retire in 20 or 30 years, the cost of living typically doubles about every 25 years. So to retire on $80,000 in 25 years, you'll need twice as much, or about $4 million at that time. So other than some super frugal people in the FIRE community, financial independence means you become a multimillionaire, and a multimillionaire is not rich today. Now, in short, a home is not a retirement for two reasons. Home values are usually too small to be a retirement, even if you sell and rent. The average home in Toronto is a bit over $1 million, while most people need between $2 and $5 million in investments to retire comfortably with the lifestyle they want. So a home does not normally give you monthly retirement income. Homeowners usually keep owning a home after they retire, so their money stays locked in their home. So for the purposes of creating a retirement income, a home is debt equity. So why do they call it debt equity? Well, what they mean by debt equity is two things. One is part of the net worth for homeowners is not getting stock market returns. And when they retire, their home equity generally does not give any monthly cash flow. So the term debt equity is exaggerated because it still makes a modest return over time, even if you have no mortgage. So, however, the main point is generally true. Owning a home, one, does not support your financial freedom and retirement goal nearly as much as if you could invest similar amounts more effectively. And two, does not normally give you a regular monthly cash flow once you retire. Right. So now, next topic, what are the two non-investment reasons homeowners tend to be wealthier? So despite the lower returns than other investments, homeowners tend to be wealthier. There are two main non-investment reasons for this. So number one, forced savings or discipline. So homeowners are forced to make their mortgage payments, which means they slowly pay down their mortgage. So they're forced to grow their equity slowly. Tenants typically have significantly lower monthly payments, but they're not forced to save. And the second reason is leverage. Homeowners typically start with a down payment of 20% and borrow the other 80%. This means that for a $1 million home, they invested $200,000, but have an asset worth $1 million. So they're leveraging 4 to 1. Their home is worth 5 times the money they invested, so their returns start 5 times higher. Now, leverage with a 20% down payment means that if your $1 million home grows in value by a moderate 6% or $60,000, you made a return of 30% on the $200,000 you invested with that $60,000. So a 30% per year return is awesome. Now, if you rent your home, you can use these same principles to grow wealth as fast or faster. Now, why do homes start being a great investment but then stop? One disadvantage that homeowners face is that their homes normally stop being a great investment. Here's the ironic and quite funny part. Most homeowners spend their working lives focused on paying off their mortgage. They start with a 20% down payment and are making a return of about 30%. As they pay down their mortgage, their rate of return on the money they have invested goes down dramatically. Once they pay off their mortgage, their home is growing only 6%. So to give you an example, so if your mortgage is 80% of your home value, you're making about 30% on it. Okay. But if it's 60%, it's 15. When you pay it down to 50%, it's 12. When you pay it down to 25%, you're making 8. And when you finally pay off the mortgage, you're only making 6% on your money. So it's no longer a great investment. In short, a home starts as a great investment with a large mortgage. Then the return drops dramatically as the mortgage is paid down. Once it's paid off, the return is just moderate. So to be a great investment, a home needs a large mortgage. So now tenants do not have to worry about this issue. Now, what are the advantages tenants have over homeowners for wealth building? So tenants have several major advantages over homeowners for wealth building. Number one, avoiding the debt equity in real estate. So tenants are free to invest for higher returns. They don't have a large part of their wealth tied up in their home. Number two, geographic mobility. So non-homeowners have freedom to relocate more easily for better job opportunities or areas with lower cost of living without the burden of selling a home or dealing with real estate market fluctuations. This flexibility can lead to higher income or career advancement, which can be invested for wealth growth. For more unconventional wisdom insights, follow this podcast and share it with your friends. I sometimes refer to a chart or image. Don't worry, if you want to see the chart, it's on my YouTube channel in this video with the same name. You can be the first to receive all my new podcasts by subscribing to my email list at www.edrempel.com. My services and costs are at edrempel.com/help. You can request a free 30-minute consultation at edrempel.com/talk or share feedback and topic ideas at edrempel.com/feedback. Number three, non-homeowners can build wealth as fast or faster using the same two non-investment advantages that benefit homeowners. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so how can you make renting your secret to smart wealth building? So here's the good news. If you don't own a home, you can grow your wealth as fast or faster using the two non-investment advantages that benefit homeowners: discipline and leverage. So now here are three effective strategies for tenants to grow wealth faster than all homeowners. Now these are illustrations only, but I just want you to understand the concept that tenants have a lot of opportunities for them. So now, strategy number one, just invest the down payment. So a huge savings, if you're a tenant, is that you don't need to save a large down payment. But what if you did anyway? It would take discipline to save it and then invest it, but this can be huge for you. So surprising fact, if you invest just the 20% down in stocks, instead of using it to buy a home, it should be worth more than the homeowner's equity after 30 years. So homeowners pay off their mortgage and their home grows in value for 30 years. However, tenants investing just the 20% down can have more than the value of the paid off home in 30 years. So let's look at the numbers. The average home in Toronto 50 years ago was $52,806. Homeowners could have put down 20% or $10,561 and should have a paid off home after 30 years. If tenants saved up for a down payment but then invested it in stocks, they would have had more wealth after 30 years and a lot more after 50 years. So we have a chart here that just takes the average value of a home in Toronto, so $52,000, and if you had paid that off, it'd today be worth $1.1 million. But if you had invested only the $10,561, the down payment, you would have dramatically more than that. And I've got a chart showing the numbers. So you'd have almost $1.5 million in Canadian stocks, over $2.5 million in global stocks, and over $3.5 million in U.S. stocks. Note that investing just the 20% down in global U.S. stocks the last 50 years is worth about 3 times the full value of the home. In Canadian stocks, it is about 30% more than the home value. Now, homeowners tend to pay off their mortgages in 25 or 30 years. This chart starts in 1975. So 25 or 30 years later would be year 2000 or 2005. Note all three stock markets are well ahead of the home value, both of these times as well. So you look at the chart at the year 2000 or the year 2005, or look at 2025. In all cases, the stock markets are well ahead of the real estate. So remember, this is to 20% of the home value invested in stocks compared to 100% of the home value invested in the home. So in short, if tenants have the discipline just to save the 20% down and invest it, they could have a higher net worth than homeowners after 30 years. Number 2 strategy, invest the lower monthly payments. Tenants tend to have significantly lower monthly payments than homeowners, especially today. It's different with each home, but historically, this has been something like $500 a month. Now, here in Toronto today, we see quite a few people with condos as rental properties. In most cases, the rent is $1,500 to $2,000 per month lower than the monthly costs, once you include the mortgage, property taxes, utilities, condo fees, and maintenance. So the average for Toronto condos today, based on some research, is $2,000 per month lower monthly payments for tenants. So typically, rent is a bit lower than just the mortgage payment alone for both condos and houses in Toronto. But homeowners pay, 1,000 or more per month for property taxes, utilities, condo fees, and maintenance. Investing your savings from lower monthly payments takes discipline, but it can be huge for you. So as a tenant, you can find out or estimate the total cost for your landlord. Note how much higher that is than your rent. Try to save and invest the amount of your lower monthly payments, or just choose an amount like 1,000 a month or 2,000 a month. Now that may sound high, but that's what your homeowners are paying now. So investing those amounts for 30 years can be worth more than the value of your home you are renting in 30 years, believe it or not. So here's what those savings could be worth for you in 30 years based on the average returns of the last 50 years. So I'm comparing the investing 1,000 a month or 2,000 a month to owning a home. So condo today would be worth $717,000 if you bought it today. If we project the 6.3% growth that we haven't been getting, it'd be worth about $4.4 million in 30 years. And homes are about $1.1 million. It's at 6.3, they'd be worth $6.8 million in 30 years. However, if you just start from zero and invest $2,000 a month in Canadian stocks, you'd have $4.6 million, U.S. stocks $7.4, and global stocks $6.2. So, you can have as much or more just with the $2,000 a month that's your savings if you just invest that amount. In short, if tenants have the discipline of homeowners and invest their lower monthly payments, they could have a higher net worth than homeowners after 30 years. Now, strategy number 3, leverage like a homeowner strategy. This strategy is a maximum growth strategy. If you have money for a home but choose not to rent instead, it combines $200,000 for a down payment and $2,000 per month lower monthly payments for renting. So this is an illustration only. Most tenants would not have this much money, but it shows that tenants can make significantly higher returns with a similar strategy and stock market returns or stock market investments. So homeowners typically start with a down payment of 20% and borrow the other 80%. This means that for a $1 million home, they invested $200,000 but have an asset worth $1 million. They're leveraging 4-to-1. Now, what if a tenant did something similar? Now, 4-to-1 loans are not available to my knowledge, but 3-for-1 loans are available from multiple sources. So a tenant could invest the amount of a down payment, $200,000, get a 3-for-1 loan of $600,000. The payments could be $2,000 a month after tax. Let's say a 6% loan less 30% tax. The loan payment could be covered by the lower rent versus, the total monthly payments for a homeowner. Okay, so we're trying to mimic what the homeowner does. A big advantage for a tenant here is that the investment loan would be tax deductible, while the homeowner's mortgage is not. Now, with returns from the last 30 years, if you bought a home in 1994 for $1 million, or did the leverage like a homeowner strategy with $200,000 and a 3-for-1 loan of $600,000 in various stock markets, here's where you could be today. Note this is $1 million in a home versus only $800,000 invested in stocks. So that $1 million in a home today, after 30 years, would be worth $5.3 million, and Canadian stocks $10.2 million, U.S. stocks $17.4 million, or global stocks $13.1 million. Again, much more than the homeowner has. So it's actually quite a cool strategy trying to mimic what homeowners do. And I have a chart showing that. In short, tenants save up some money and do the same leverage like a homeowner strategy. They could get a significantly higher return than homeowners. This does not have to be equivalent of a down payment. Any amount that they can save can be invested for higher growth than homeowners get. So in addition, their investment loan is tax deductible while the homeowner's mortgage is not. So in summary, if you rent your home, you can grow your wealth as fast or faster using the same 2 ideas that benefit homeowners: savings discipline and leverage. Renting could be your secret to smarter wealth building. Thanks for listening. What you learned today is how do homes compare to other growth investments for rate of return? Why is it unfortunate for people if their home is their largest investment? Why do they call home equity debt equity? What are the two non-investment reasons homeowners tend to be wealthier? Why do homes start being a great investment but then stop? What are the advantages tenants have over homeowners for wealth building? How can you make renting your secret to smart wealth building? And what are the three effective strategies to grow wealth faster without owning a home? Thank you for listening. My name is Ed Rempel. My blog is Unconventional Wisdom. It's the number one blog in Canada for a full-service financial planner. It's just edrempel.com, my name, or it could be unconventionalwisdom.ca because we're in Canada. So now, if you're interested in talking to us about potentially working with us, we offer a free 30-minute consultation. Just go to edrempel.com/talk. If you subscribe to my blog, podcast on YouTube, all that means is you get my regular post or video or podcast or blog once a week, every Thursday when I put them out. We don't market it in any other way. My podcast on 28 different sites is edrempel.com/listen, and YouTube channel is edrempel.com/watch. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you for listening. For more unconventional wisdom insights, follow this podcast, give it a review, and share it with your friends. Be the first to receive all my podcasts by subscribing to my email list at www.edrempel.com. My services and costs are at edrempel.com/help, and you can request a free 30-minute consultation at edrempel.com/talk. I often cover listener questions, so if you have a burning question or topic on which you'd like to hear unconventional wisdom, please ask or share feedback at edrempel.com/feedback. See you next week.